Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn got announced pretty much almost 3 years after its initial release, which is really long for a DLC. Some games even go 2 years and then they announce their DLC, but with Arise, this has been the longest I've ever seen before they dropped a whole separate story package, and I backed it really hard. There's a lot of Tales fans who did not want this at all. They wanted a brand new game, or they wanted one of the older games remastered or remade. There was a whole bunch saying it's going to be complete doo-doo, and I had a whole bunch of faith in Bandai. I was like, nah guys, I'm not giving my opinion until I finish the DLC at all. And I finished the DLC, and okay, so 2 disclaimers before I get into this video. 1, my opinion should never change the way you feel about a video game. I've said this many times before, but I'm not here to ruin anyone's fun or make you just follow in my footsteps and just claim the opinions I claim. I give my opinions about a video game once I finish them because I'm really passionate about them and I think I could offer a good overview of games when I review them. But I don't want you to change your opinions. This is just my experience when I finished it. The second disclaimer is it did not change anything about the base game for me. I still feel the exact same. I love Tales of Arise, and while I noticed a bit more issues playing this DLC from like the base combat mechanics, it really doesn't change any way I feel about the base game. Honestly, the funnest part of this DLC was just hopping on, seeing the amazing cast again, and having so much fun with the combat all over again. But truthfully, yeah, I was disappointed. I'm always going to tell you guys the exact truth of how I feel about any said game. So I'm going to go into everything I thought the game did fantastic with this DLC, and then I'm going to go into everything I did not think it did good with the DLC, and I'm going to keep that as spoiler free as possible. I am going to go into a few things like maybe how many bosses the DLC had and stuff like that. I'm still going to be vague, but there might be things like that. And then at the very end, I will have a small spoiler section, which I will yell loud and clear before I do, where I will give my thoughts to anyone who wants to hear my exact thoughts of the ending and just more spoilerly type stuff. Starting with the good, I love the new main battle theme of this DLC. It's really nicely made, and the rest of the songs through the DLC are also awesome. Now, the sound mixing still sucks. They didn't update any of the sound mixing with this DLC, so I still had to go in there myself and edit all the sounds to barely still hear the music. I still couldn't really hear it. Now, this is the good section, so I'm going to stay on track, but still, the good songs, they were really, really good. I enjoyed them. I still listen to them right now. The new story elements are pretty good sometimes. Now, not all of them really captured me in, but the character moments are really nice. So there's a lot of new side quests in this whole DLC. Honestly, most of this DLC is just side quests. Now, I know that sounds sucky, but actually a good amount of them were cool. They were either really funny or they gave really good insight onto the characters. And then the actual big story moments, I did enjoy. They got a couple screams and hype moments out of me for sure. And then I also enjoyed the new character, Nazamil. Now, I don't think I enjoyed her as much as anyone from the base cast, but she's definitely a worthy character and the voice actress did very well. I think if you're someone who prioritizes character moments and story over gameplay, I think you're gonna have a good time with this DLC. It's just if you prioritize gameplay, or if you kind of put it in the middle, you know, both story and gameplay, you want new stuff, it's gonna be a little rough. And then the final good point of this DLC was the dungeon design. Now, you're going to get 2 small dungeons and then your main big dungeon, which is your giant big area you get to explore for the DLC. And the first 2 are kind of meh, they're really basic and small. But the final one is designed really well in my opinion. The big puzzle they got going on, I think is actually really fun. And they had some really good shortcuts where you'll loop around and be like, okay, that was pretty cool. It's a nice designed dungeon in my opinion, in terms of the layout. We're going to get into the enemies and bosses. And that's pretty much it with the good. Now, I honestly had a blast just streaming this and hanging out with everybody and playing Tales of Arise again because it's still my favorite Tales game. But yeah, I'm going to go into all the bad right now, all the things I think they just didn't do very well, and all the things I think they should have added. Now, I must say, I did not have like the craziest expectations going into this. They advertised this as a $30 DLC that is going to give you a lot of new story and a lot of new dungeons and stuff like that. They made it seem pretty dang big, almost like a Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed or a Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. You know, we've had a lot of JRPG DLCs in the past that were $30. The first big issue for me with the DLC, and I've seen a lot of people mention this also, especially a lot of casual players, and I don't mean casual in a negative sense. I mean casual as in, you know, they want to have a fun time with the story, get through it, and then move on to their next game. There's a lot of big game releases this year. It's the arts and having to level up again. You start at level 70 and you go up to 100. It would have been so much better if it just is based on your original playthrough. You know, once you reach level 100 or whatever it is from the base game, you just continue off of that. And then once you go past level 100, you start unlocking new arts, maybe new boost strikes. But no, you just start at level 70 and you unlock all the same arts again. You got to go through your skill tree again. And there is absolutely no new arts. There is no new boost strikes. There's not one single thing new with the combat system except for a little bit extra damage with your boost strikes. If you do these character-centric side quests, which are pretty fun, you're going to get extra damage for your boost strikes. That's it. God, this is one of those that just honestly sucks because you know Bandai did it for money. I have no other explanation I could give you. They stated that they wanted to do it for new players just in case they were to hop into this. You could play it at any time through the base game where you could start this one first. No, this is for people that have already beaten Tales of Arise and absolutely love it. To be honest, I don't think anyone's even going to hear about this unless you've already played about Arise and are avidly following the Tales series. Because yeah, if they treated it like a post-game DLC, if your data wasn't up to par, you were going to have to play the base game either to the credits if you never finished it, or maybe level up a little bit. But still, if you finish the base game, you should be able to just go straight into the DLC with all your stuff and start unlocking new things, and you should be leveled enough. Like, they couldn't have balanced it like that. They really should have kept players in mind that love Tales and love Tales of Arise. They should not have thought about new players at all with this DLC, considering it takes place a year after the base game. And then it comes the enemies and bosses, which is another huge one for me. This one was very disappointing, unfortunately. I could barely tell you any of the new enemies or bosses. There was one main one, obviously, at the very end, and then I would give them 2 mini bosses. I'll give them 2, even though I want to only say there's 2 new bosses in this DLC. And then the enemies are all just reskins. In my opinion, it's very lazy. There's an abundance of reskins. It'd be okay if they did a little bit. In Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, the Remind story section has way too much reskin stuff. We all complained about it, but then after that, there was a plethora of brand new content you could tell they spent a lot of time on. And with Tales of Arise, besides some of the story cutscenes in this DLC, which still there weren't that many of them, there was nothing new in terms of the combat mechanics. Even the final boss, which is super cool looking aesthetically, but oh my gosh, it did not really offer anything gameplay wise. I beat that boss at level 90 and I was on unknown, and I felt like I was just kind of going with the flow. I barely had to learn anything, and it was more because it was like a cinematic fight, which I would have been fine with, but there's nothing else to really do. Like, in that dungeon, one of my biggest gripes, because it was actually a really good designed dungeon, is when you get to these certain sections, they're like, oh, here's a mini boss. You want to know what they did with the mini boss? They took a phantom version of the final boss. You're going to end up fighting a version of it, and you're going to fight that while she spawns other mini bosses you've already fight. It is not fun, and it is lazy. I honestly can't believe they did this, because you go in there and you're just like, are you serious? Like, did you really just spawn that enemy I just fought 3 times instead of like something new? So besides these side quests, which again do have very good character moments and a few nicely new animated cutscenes, and in the very end, you're not going to get much new to this game. It's going to feel very much all the same combat, same arts and skills you're going to unlock. And it gets very old. Like, it was kind of just boring, if I'm going to be honest. And it deserved a lot more. I'm going to show right here. Almost 2 years ago, I made a video on my channel, way when I was a small little YouTuber, about this game needing DLC bosses just because the combat was so amazing, and I think it deserved even more of them. I just can't believe they didn't capitalize on any of that in this game, and they didn't balance anything either. Like, everything is exactly the same. They didn't take some of the OP moves like Raining Slash, maybe tune it a little bit. They didn't take any bosses and maybe lower the HP. You know, the HP complaint could have been rectified in this DLC, even though me personally, I didn't think it was a huge problem. What's funny is in this DLC, it does kind of outline it as a huge problem, because the way they did the bosses in this were kind of cinematic, so they were very long and drawn out, and I was just like, wow, this is not what I wanted, you know? I wanted to take what I already knew about Arise and take it to the next level, test me on all the new abilities, give me some crazy new bosses, more than one giant dungeon, because I'm also comparing it to other $30 DLCs. That's half the amount of a full-fledged game. Xenoblade DLCs, Remind, and a few others like Dark Souls DLCs, those offer a lot of stuff in the DLC. It doesn't help either that you look at the bottom of the PSN page, and for the legacy costumes for all the old Tales characters, it's an extra $15. Like, you're telling me you guys couldn't have put that in the $30 DLC. There's not even any fan service really in this DLC. They could have put that in there, but now it's $45 if you want the DLC plus the skins of the old Tales games. I don't know, man. They should have had legacy characters in the DLC. There should have been fan service up the ass. You gotta understand, it's been almost 3 years. The hype has died down for this game. It's $30 for the DLC. It should have been really big, like almost half the size of Arise in itself, but it's not. It's maybe a little bit more than one of the Lord arcs, I would say. You get a little bit of that, and then that's it. I finished it in around 18 hours, and if I did 100%, you'd finish it like 22 to 25 hours, but again, a lot of them are side quests. So yeah, that was a lot of the bad. And then before I go into the spoiler section of a few other things that I didn't really like per se, I must state again, if you're a character and story person, I do think you'll get some stuff out of this DLC. If you don't mind spending $30 to see the cast again in a new light and have the new character Nazamil and see what happens to them, then I totally say go for it. Just keep in mind, you're not going to get that many new things gameplay-wise at all. You're going to get a new dungeon, a little bit of new story moments, but even again, they didn't go fully in depth to some of the things I wanted to see after base Arise. I wanted them to go even deeper on some things, and they just didn't do it. I almost feel like they just went way too by the books for this. So yeah, unfortunately, I will never get any new bosses, arts, combos, or enemies to really try out in Tales of Arise, and I love the game so much, but it's okay. We got plenty of new games, but Bandai, I really think you should take the series forward. Like, it's absurd that there's been no new announcements, and all we've gotten is Tales of Symphonia Remastered that has issues in itself. It's like, dude, the Tales series is sick. I just went through all the games after Arise. It's a magnificent series. Like, they need to take some of the old stuff that really worked, take all the hype that they got from Arise, and just keep the series moving, man. I can't believe this is really what they brought after so long. So be warned, I'm going to go into the spoiler section now. I hope that helped anyone who maybe was looking to buy the game and wasn't sure and just wanted to hear someone else's experience. I'm sorry if that hurt anyone who loves Arise. I still love the game. I just have to be honest when I play certain things, and I have high standards these days. I played a lot of amazing JRPGs, and at this point, I don't expect the best at all times, but for Arise, which I thought was a really good modern action RPG, I expected more for the DLC for sure. Now for the spoiler section, it is actually not too giant, honestly, because the DLC did not have too much stuff for me to go into. So it's really nice how you're doing the EX quest and Alphen is gathering all his friends, honestly ones that he didn't even have too deep of convos with, like Rinwell, and you're finding out how to get the marriage going and stuff, and it's honestly really cute and funny, but at the end of the day, they don't show the wedding, and it doesn't even go in depth enough for me, to be honest. Like, Alphen and Xion don't kiss, they kind of just look at each other, and the ending of the game, just kind of seeing like Nazamil go off, I don't know, it was so by the books, like basic anime scene. I was like, are you serious? I wanted to see emotion. I wanted to see these characters older. Like, I wanted to see Law and Rinwell when they're older together. I wanted to see Kasara and Dohalim just in Vicent ruling over as they're older. Even if they didn't give me that, I wanted to see the wedding more and just more to it, you know? I just didn't feel like they gave us enough, almost like they need another DLC to just show more of this. And then also with the length of the DLC, I just felt like some of the pacing was a little too fast. Like, I actually enjoyed how they went over Alphen being a hero and dealing with people always looking at him as a hero and him trying to accept that and get over it. But the one scene where he kind of lost his mind on the citizens, it was warranted. I think it was warranted, but still, his character in the base game didn't do anything, in my opinion, that outlandish, at least to me. So it did catch me off guard a little bit and just felt a little weird, where I almost forgot about it. I was like, nah, Alphen didn't do that. And again, they were trying to kill Nazamil, so I get it, but it was just kind of a weird cutscene to me, and instead of kind of bringing something new to the table for Alphen for myself, it kind of just, I was like, oh, I'm gonna forget that happened. And then with Nazamil, she has so many fighting abilities. As we see in this DLC, she's a boss fight. I think we should have played as her for a little bit. Like, again, with Xenoblade DLCs, you literally get full new parties and new combat systems and stuff. It's like they couldn't have just thrown in Nazamil for you to play as. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm asking too much. Like, you guys let me know in the comments. Am I asking too much? I definitely don't think I am, with some people being disappointed. Now, I did say I'm not just going to jump on a bandwagon. I'm going to finish the game and give my real thoughts. The truth was, I was just disappointed. Like, I wanted to play the hell out of this DLC, but it's over with, and it was just kind of, like, boring. I didn't remember too much of it, in a sense. Like, it wasn't very memorable. But yeah, Arise is still one of my favorite games. It's unfortunate that I couldn't really continue that with this DLC, but I was still grateful to stream it with everybody. It was, again, really fun to just go back to the game and relive the combat system, which I still think is amazing. I'm going to have a video linked down for way back in my early YouTube career where I talked about how amazing the combat system is of Arise. And even though the video is dated and I would have changed some things, I would suggest to go watch it just because it's a cool video, very passionate video, and I still love Tales of Arise. And it's unfortunate that this is the opinion I came to when I finished it, but I have to hold Bandai Namco accountable, and this is my opinion. And again, it is just my opinion. So if you love this DLC, keep loving this DLC. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you got some knowledge out of it. Hopefully you enjoyed my rant. If you didn't enjoy my rant, make sure to leave a dislike. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video very soon. Have a fantastic day, okay? Peace.